This is the Outlap F1 podcast featuring America's own Cody, Andy, and Deanna. Your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. Join us on the Outlap. As much as I would like to try my hand at a Julie Andrews impression, I don't think anyone who's actually watching this would like that. So we're not going to sing The Hills Are Alive, but The Hills Were Alive with the sound of Formula One cars. This is Season 8, Episode 3 of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's our 2026 Austrian GP review show. You've got Andy. I am once again along with Cody. Cody, it's the first review for you in a while, but you picked a good one. How's it been?
It has been really good. And honestly, if you had tried to rope me into singing The Hills Are Alive with the sound of music at the drop of a hat like that, you would have been on your own. But yes, very, like I said on the preview, very happy to be back from my vacation. It was a blast, but I am still happy to be home. A little more tan, much more beard than when I left. Got to fix that soon. But just tried to enjoy Formula One while I was overseas, and it wasn't working out just due to exhaustion from everything I was doing. So it was really, really nice to be able to just cush out on the couch in the morning with a cup of coffee and be like, yeah, Formula One, it's quiet, there's cats, it's great.
Yeah, there is something to a traditional European Formula One morning if you're in the US. I do actually like it, even though my stupid self got up early to watch F2 and then tried to go back to sleep, which was a mistake. And I slept all the way to the alarm, and I spent the last half an hour trying to get my setup ready. I think I made lights out by about 4 minutes by the time I got everything set back up, but it's all good. But anyway, we're going to get into what was a very fascinating and very hot, and there were tempers flaring all over the place, Austrian GP. But if you have found our show, as we always like to say, welcome along. We are glad you are here. You can find us on X, Instagram, Discord, Reddit, and of course here on YouTube at Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle for all of those places. If you are enjoying what you are seeing, and I do plan to do video for this one, and you like what you're hearing, do us a solid, click the like or the subscribe button on YouTube, or if you're on a favorite podcasting app and you're just hearing the audio, a 5-star review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify are the best ones to help our show come up a little bit better in F1 related search results if you're into content like this. You can email the show outlapf1@gmail.com. Thank you so much for Outlap F1 Nation, who continue to step up. Thank you so much to, y'all know the names, and we got the newbies now too. Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, Jonathan Scott, Rachel Fleming, Dave Doherty, and Brandon Bowler. Thank you so much for supporting the show. If you'd like to support the show, as I like to say, we have our link. It's called buymeacoffee.com/outlapf1. We are in the European season. We do need coffee because it does F1 starts when the sun is arising. So this time of the year, you can go to that link and you can see our stuff there. Whatever you'd like to give, we would be most appreciative if you want to do that. Do you have to do that? No, we're just glad that you're listening. All right, with the particulars now out of the way, we will dive into the Austrian GP weekend. We'll start with our headlines of the day. Cody, what you got, sir?
My headline is down to the wire. It did become a little bit of a chase throughout this race with Max Verstappen trying to chase down George Russell and then trying to chase down George Russell again. And getting into the later part of the race, you had this weird cat and mouse and dog, I suppose, situation going on with Max chasing George and Antonelli chasing Max, chasing George. So unfortunately, we were just maybe a couple laps short of a 3-way battle for the win. I'm sure would have been amazing, but still pretty exciting race. And my guy came and finished second somehow. Didn't really see that coming. So I got to say, I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a Red Bull fan, you have to be encouraged and enthused by the updates that they brought. They definitely seemed to be doing their best. All of the Red Bull big brass were in attendance this weekend. So, and everybody was talking about what Max Verstappen was going to do yet again. There were other rumored stories and things that I don't know how much I'm willing to pay attention to it at this point. When he makes his decision, that's when I'll report on it. Until then, it's all kind of just air as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, my headline of the day for this race is rivalries renewed. Max and Lewis took us back a few years and threw the clock back with an amazing wheel-to-wheel battle between the two of them. Good, hard, clean racing. What a concept. Maybe a little bit on the limit, we can judge, but that's the fun part because we were actually, and everybody got through it okay. Nobody ended up in the wall. While George, meanwhile, gets back into the title fight against his teammates. So we needed George to start pulling back that gap. He's started to do that. A couple wins now in a row. So, or no, this is actually I'm sorry, take that back. This is his first
I guess
win.
you could count him finishing second and Antonelli retiring in the last race as a win for him.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like a win, but no, this was actually, I got the stat wrong. This is his first win since Melbourne, the season opening race, actually. So his second win on the season. But before we get into the Sunday running, we have to talk about qualifying. P22 and P21. Oh, my Lord, the house of pain for Aston Martin. It just continues 2.5 to 3 seconds off the pole time. Wow, how bad can it get? The B-Spec car cannot get here soon enough. P20 and P19, they did not have a very good weekend either. We will talk about their plights. Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez in the two Cadillacs, but definitely clear by almost a second over the Aston Martins. P18 was Alex Albon, P17 Carlos Sainz, P16 Franco Colapinto, as the Alpines did not take to this track well this weekend. P15 was Esteban Ocon, P14 Nico Hulkenberg, P13 was Ali Behrman, P12 was Gabby Bortoleto, P11, just missing out on the Q3 shootout, was Pierre Gasly and the other Alpine. Top 10 from 10 to 1. Arvid Lindblad comes home in P10. P9 is Liam Lawson. P8 was Isaac Hadjar. P7 was Oscar Piastri. P6, defending race winner Lando Norris, only good enough for P6. Wow. P5 was Max Verstappen on some renewed form here. P4 was Kimi Antonelli. P3 was Lewis Hamilton. P2 was Charles Leclerc. And in P1, with what you gotta say was a heck of a lap, because if he did the lift thing like he claimed, this thing was on for a 105, a lap time of 106.113. George Russell gets it done at the death. Wow. All right, Cody. The last qualifying effort notwithstanding, because I want to kind of get your take on that as well. What were your big thoughts in the qualifying session?
But besides that part,
well, you can go with that part if you want.
All right. So I guess we'll open up with probably the big story from this qualifying
the moment, yes.
Yeah, the weird stuff that happened at the end of Q3. So we were seeing pretty strong qualifying performances all around. Actually, at this point in qualifying, Ferrari looked like they were doing pretty good. Mercedes looked like they were not as far ahead as perhaps we were expecting. Max was in the mix. McLaren was even kind of in the mix there for a minute. Times were seeming pretty close. You had Lewis come around and take provisional pole. Then you had Leclerc come around and pip him for provisional pole. And then you had Max Verstappen coming around on a really good lap. And he just decided he was going to go for broke and overdid it into the fastest turn on the track. Lost it. Car goes flying off into the gravel trap, nails the wall. And he was done. And by the way that crash looked, with him flying off at the fastest part of the circuit and being completely out and his car's totaled and all that stuff, with the amount of time that was left on, you thought that was it for qualifying. It looked like we had a Ferrari 1-2 front row lockout. And then about 20 seconds go by, and suddenly George Russell appears at the top of the timing, quite a bit ahead of Charles Leclerc, needs to be said. A couple tenths there, and like you said, probably could have ended up being a couple more tenths in And we were all kind of sitting there wondering, like, does that count? Because there were yellow flags.
I saw something, but I don't believe, but the timing is saying I didn't see what I thought I saw.
Yeah.
Right?
So I was like kind of looking at that going like, okay, like, yeah, the only way that he could do that really is if he didn't really like bail from his lap, I guess. And we were kind of in this confusion of, well, what exactly were the conditions on the track and what are the rules for those conditions? And it turns out what was initially waived was a single yellow flag when George Russell was going through that part of the circuit. And the rules for a single waved yellow is that you just need to show that you've slowed up going into that part of the track. And pretty much from everything that I've seen, from just looking at the onboard, what all the pundits were saying, I guess what's shown in data is that George Russell did in fact lift, however briefly, but he did lift, and you can really even kind of hear it on the onboard broadcast. And even with that, he manages to make it around, finish his lap, and still get pole by a pretty good margin. And I guess what a lot of people are kind of bent out of shape over, myself included on this, is that was a single waved yellow really the right call for the situation? I don't think so. But what do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. Now, what I will preface this is all very much split-second decisions that happen. And part of my issue with what happened is process-based, much more than I don't think anybody was trying to endanger anybody intentionally. I'm not in the camp of, oh my God, this couldn't possibly stand. I get how it happened because I've seen how the marshaling system works. When we go to COTA, we actually are in a pretty advantageous position. We have a marshal post that's literally right in front of us. And what you can see is how they actually do the stuff that they do. And if you're a nerd like I am, and sometimes during free practice, I will watch what the marshals do and how they act and how the calls come in from race control and what buttons they're pushing. And what it basically is it's a keypad. And most, I think, on circuit marshals, especially in like a tough corner, are going to have their hands on the yellow flag button because that's the first thing that tells race control, hey, there's a problem. The issue that I have with what race control did was the same one that you have. Why a single yellow versus a double yellow? Why when there's a car in the wall? I don't think race control saw it because they didn't have a stable camera in that corner, and why that is not there, I don't understand. It felt like they were all waiting for the TV because they didn't go double yellow until you saw Max in the car. The other thing that happened was the official timing screen decided to completely crap the bed. There was no yellow flag marker. There was no double yellow flag marker. There was no nothing going into that. And I'm sitting here looking at my timing screen going, what just happened? You want to know how I know about it? Because 5 minutes after that, when everything catches back up, I'm watching everybody's in-lap get deleted. This 81 deleted, 1 deleted, 16 deleted, 44 deleted, because it was all catching back up. Something malfunctioned that nobody's saying because the system didn't work right here. Should that have been a double yellow? Absolutely. There's a car on the wall. That's a safety thing. That should be paramount. I do not understand. I can understand in the quick minute, like, hey, I just want to get a yellow flag if I'm the marshal. I'm not sure if I think the marshal can actually override race control and waive his own double yellow flags, which he may have done. But that process is going to take 3 or 4 seconds. So what happens is Max goes in, but George is the next car in line. So he's only maybe about 3 seconds back. So he passes. You can clearly see it on George's onboard, the zone, but the lights, as they were single yellow flags. So as much as you want to have a gripe with what George did, he actually followed the rules, and he's in the cockpit. He can't see. It's not on him to go looking around and going, "Oh, was that really bad?" No, he's trying to finish his qualifying lap. So
Yeah,
I blame this one on the FIA. I don't like it, but it's got to stand, unfortunately. Even though, like, we look at it and it's one of these obvious things that, like, I looked at it and said that there's no way that stands. And you looked at it and said there's no way that stands. And then here we are 3 days later, and that result stands. So,
like you said, by the rules, George Russell was actually pretty ingenious and did exactly what he was supposed to do. So I guess good on him for being able to figure that out in like a split second.
right.
That he could still keep going, because Kimi Antonelli messed that up. He could have kept going.
Well, he at that point it was clearly double yellow, and they were telling him on his radio double yellow. So at that point his lap was done.
I thought that Antonelli was actually in front of Russell though during the qualifying. No,
okay. He was coming around. Kimi likes to leave it to the very. He wants to be the last car, and he had kind of worked that out again to be the last car. And he was on, I think he had a really good sector 1. He was somewhere in the second sector. He hadn't posted his time yet by the time they actually threw the yellow flag, or the first yellow flag. George was, I mean, you go back to Max's lap. He had set a purple second sector. So his lap would have been very, very interesting to see how that would have ended, given what that lap was looking like. And then George, I don't know where that pace came from. If this is Mercedes sandbagging until the end, then we're in trouble, folks, because that could have been 4/10 in a track with 10 corners in it. That you all expect the qualifying to be really, really close. And if that's really what the gap could have been, yikes. That's all I got to say. That was one hell of a lap from George. Lift notwithstanding. All right. So we kind of talked about obviously the Ferraris at this point looking very good, coming off of their momentum in Spain. McLaren's again. This is just a pattern that I'm seeing, and it's kind of annoying. They look good on Friday, and Kevin Kelly was texting me, and he was trying to pump me up, and he's like, "Oh, Lando and Oscar P2 and P3 and pre-practice too." And I said, yeah, they may have the Friday darling syndrome, and that's exactly what happened. They get to Saturday and everybody turns it up, and they can't quite turn it up as much as the rest of them do. So it's P6 and P7 on the grid. Isaac Hadjar with a very respectable qualifying, and the 2 Racing Bulls, I think, also as well, to get into Q3 was pretty good. Beating out the Alpines, who they've been kind of going against. Struggle bus teams, the Cadillacs and the Aston Martins, man. Cadillac, I can understand. They brought a whole raft of updates that they were always trying to understand, and I don't think they got on top of them. But the Astons, man, that car is slow, it is tough to drive, and the engine doesn't work right. Those are 3 ingredients into a bad, slow team. Fernando Alonso has got to be just counting down days at this point. Wow. Yeah, enough. The less said there, the better. All right. So with our controversy now kind of decided, and we had Russell on the pole, we flip over the card to Sunday, and we start with our back markers, and there's not as much unreliability here, but there's still a fair amount. And it's who you'd almost would expect. The two Cadillacs had a problem. Their brakes kept catching on fire, and they couldn't put them out, and that meant Valtteri Bottas does 2 laps and calls it a day, and Sergio Perez doubles the effort and does 4 laps and then calls it a day, all due to brake failure. Apparently, according to Ted Kravitz in his notebook, he says it is a design flaw, and the hotter the weather, the worse it's going to get until they can redesign the brake duct. They need to redesign the brake duct because that ain't going to work.
Yeah, well, hopefully you don't run into too many races where it's like 97 degrees out there, but
also
definitely made that design flaw very apparent.
Yes. Other non-finishers, Carlos Sainz, who did his best Alex Rossi impression from the Indy GP and stopped at the start-finish line, causing a virtual safety car. And then Lance Stroll, giving up the ghost after 45 laps, bringing it into the pits, actually causing Lando Norris at that time some having to make a decision because he was coming in so slowly that Lando damn near hit him as he was trying to retire the car. But 45 laps was as good as it could get in one Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso does finish the race. He is classified. However, 3 laps down. Ouch in P18. P17 was Alex Albon. P16, Esteban Ocon. P15, Franco Colapinto. P14, Ali Behrman. And P13 was Pierre Gasly. No points for the Alpines, the Haas's, or any Williams. So this was a tough day to be in the latter part of the midfield or the back markers.
Yeah, it was a rough one. It was pretty brutal to see what happened to Cadillac, where they brought a whole slew of upgrades and they're retiring less than 5 laps into the Grand Prix, and both of them coming on the radio saying, "My brakes are on fire." It's like, seems to be.
And these weren't little fires
problem.
either. These were big fires
big
with lots
whooshes,
of smoke.
Fire extinguisher. Yeah, that was pretty bad. And yes, Aston Martin, like, they, I'm sure, want to just put this car behind them as soon as they possibly can, because not only did Fernando Alonso finish 3 laps down from the leaders, but actually he was almost lapped by the next car in front of him, Alex Albon. How embarrassing would that be? You are so bad that the next person in front of you is going to lap you. Yeah, that does not look good. This is definitely going completely the opposite of what we thought might happen with Aston Martin coming into the season. And I don't, honestly, I keep hearing about that they're going to pretty much put this car in the bin and bring a car with so many updates that it may as well be considered like a B-spec car. But even so, like, I'm sure they just can't wait to get to next year where they can just kind of start over somewhat and take all of their bajillions of engine upgrades that they're going to have for next year in addition to this year and just move on.
Yeah, I honestly think at this point, this is the case study that it's not just money. Yes, you need money to be successful in Formula One, and you probably need gobs of it. But gobs of money alone are not going to be enough if you have kind of an island of misfit toys, which is what it looks like this Aston Martin effort is right now.
Yeah, I mean, you've got gobs of money. You've got who is, generally recognized as one of the greatest Formula One engineers of all time. You've got someone who's recognized as one of the greatest Formula One drivers of all time sitting in your car. On paper, it should work. But apparently there's things aren't jiving, or you don't have enough good personnel in places where it matters still. Or
I think if I was to speculate, I think the revolving door of team principals did nothing but get us to this place. I think they put way too much on Adrian Newey. Yes, he's very well compensated for what he does, but he should be left alone to do what he does. The fact that they tried to trot him out as the team principal in the first part of this season was absolutely ridiculous. And you're seeing all of this now is the knock-on effect because it takes that much longer to reset it. So I've heard maybe Spa, you might see the B car, but it can't come soon enough because it's not even fun. Like there are parts where I could say maybe this is fun bad. This is beyond fun bad. This is just painful to watch.
No, I feel really bad for Fernando bad.
Yeah, exactly. Other highlights. Yeah, I mean, just not a good weekend for the Alpines or the Haas's, just in general. The Williamses, what did Ted Kravitz say when I watched it? He goes, "Yeah, this is usually where we talk about Williams in the bad race, and today was no exception." And that's kind of where they're at. Which you have to wonder when the whispers are going to start talking about people involved in that effort, because I thought for sure this was a team to watch, given their form last year, given how they capitalized on stuff and going into this season. And they came out and said, we're only focused on 2026. And it's just been blah. Yeesh.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Enough of the back markers who had a day to forget. The midfield saw P12 was Nico Hulkenberg. P11 was Gabby Bortoletto. The law firm of Lindblad and Lawson open up your point scorers with Lindblad in P10 and Lawson in P9. Charles Leclerc and the Ferraris, boy, did they have a turn of fortune to the negative on Sunday. Only comes home in P8. Lando Norris, unable to do much better from his qualifying position, comes home in P7. Chasing P6, Isaac Hadjar, who had, I think, a very positive race for him. P5 was Lewis Hamilton, unable to take advantage of the good qualifying form. And P4 was Oscar Piastri, finding it a little bit in the McLaren, but not good enough necessarily to get on the podium. Your podium finishers were Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes, Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, a scant 1.6 seconds adrift of George Russell, who comes home in the Mercedes in P1. Cody, I imagine you have a lot to talk about with Max, so we'll let you have it. What you got?
Some good and some bad. Obviously, I was, going back to qualifying, I was kind of disappointed that he wrecked himself in what could have been a pole or very least a front row effort, which, maybe could have changed his fortunes just ever so slightly in the race. But move on from that. He had himself a pretty good race. He had, as you mentioned at the beginning, a very awesome battle with Lewis Hamilton. Like I texted you during that, inject that directly into my veins. It's so fun watching them race each other because, you kind of get that feeling that, even though it's been a whole bunch of years and they seem kind of buddy in interviews and on the podium and stuff, there's still maybe just a touch of bad blood there. And they they race each other really hard. And I love watching it. And it's like, they're both really willing to run each other to the limit. They ended up, I think they noted part of that for like Hamilton maybe pushing Verstappen a little wide or something, but it didn't go any further. I'm really happy that it didn't go any further because honestly, to me, it looked like it was on the limit, but pretty fair. It would have been no different had Verstappen been pushing Hamilton wide. In fact, probably would have been worse. So I think what we saw was really exciting. Makes that move. He's making huge inroads on George, and that was after the first round of pit stops. He's really eating into George's lead, and I'm sitting there kind of on the edge of my seat, going, "Holy shit! He might actually have a chance of winning this race." He gets all the way up to like within 2 seconds.
It was 2
of
seconds.
George, and we're kind of wondering like who's going to pit first, who's going to do what. George goes in and pits for another set of hards, and then Max just goes around and he goes around and he goes around and he goes around and he goes around and goes around. And
it felt like
all this
forever.
Time, you're seeing the timing, and the commentators are noting just how much time he is losing to George Russell each lap. And each lap he keeps going around. I'm feeling a little tortured inside, being like, what are you doing? You're letting it get away. We're never going to really know exactly how it might have played out if they had pitted him, like one lap after George or something. But it was very clear that Red Bull was trying to get as much of a tire offset as possible. Maybe they were trying to go far enough to put on medium tires and try to take that to the end of the race because, that would be grippier. But eventually it looked like they figured out that they were losing so much time trying to make that strategy happen that they just had to bring him in and put him on hards. And for what it was worth, I don't know how much George was just driving to a delta just to get to the end. But Max was making huge inroads into his lead again, and only finished a little over, what's the delta here? 1.6 seconds. So yeah, managed to catch right back up to George at the end there. Not only that, but also Kimi Antonelli, who, might I say, was having a really scruffy beginning to his race, had managed to pull himself together.
He went through his track limit violations in 2 laps.
Yeah, for like the first 2 laps there, he looked like he was flying off like at the same corner every lap, and multiple times a lap was flying off on the outside. And I was wondering like what was going on there. but he managed to get it together and rally, and then he was catching up to Max Verstappen even more quickly than Max was catching George. So he only finishes 0.3 back from Max Verstappen. And at that point, I was, those last couple laps, I was like, okay, fuck the win. Like, just stay in second at least, please. And that was what happened. They came over the line very, very close. You know, 2 more laps and we could have maybe seen something really wild. So maybe in a sense we were robbed of that, but at least we had it keeping us on the edge of our seats until the very end. And I think between your top 3 there, they all ran an awesome race. George did everything he had to do. Great start off the line. Maybe looked like he had a pace disadvantage to Max and Kimi at times, but he made it work. Got it to the end in the lead. So great race on him. Max making a great comeback for Red Bull. Antonelli making a great comeback from whatever the start of his race was. So, yeah, great for everyone on the podium.
Yeah, I mean, Antonelli almost got the safety car cards, not only once, but twice with the virtual safety cars, as he was pitting when Carlos Sainz's car decided to conk out on the main straight and say no more. And then it happened again with, who else was retiring? It might have been, I got to go back and look, but it might have been when Stroll was slowing down or something, or there was debris on the circuit that caused the second virtual safety car, and he had just pitted again. So the commentators were all like, boy, he just missed the cheap pit stop. But, that's kind of how that cookie crumbles. So it wasn't like a strategic thing. They weren't trying to time it. They just kind of just didn't get the advantage of it. But all 3 of these guys, I think, were definitely kind of all in their own race away from everybody else because of their pace advantage. So, yeah, I mean, the two Mercedes you almost expect to be there at this point, and Max Verstappen being the legit foil in the Mercedes game here, a new contender maybe. Here's the thing, like, I'm excited to see, like, is this real for Red Bull or is this circuit specific? Because I don't know. Same thing, kind of like the Ferrari thing. I was excited for Lewis to get back into it, and then here disappeared. I cannot tell you, like, they got on the hard tire and it's like they hadn't ever seen that tire before. It was like 4 or 5 tenths a lap. They were giving back. It was overcooked way too early. They tried the same thing that they tried in Spain. And this was the answer to my question. If you go back and listen to my Spanish review, I was like, what would have happened had George just said, no, I'm going to run my race and stay out? Here's the answer. I'm still fast enough. Nice try on the undercut, but it didn't matter. And here, unlike in Spain, the Ferraris didn't have that amazing 1-lap out-lap pace to put the pressure back on the Mercedes to counter and have to cover them off. So, yeah, I mean, I can't really explain. Ferrari gets the engine update and somehow look worse than they did before. That looks odd.
Lewis Hamilton was trying to fight it as best he could. Had some good racing against Charles Leclerc as well. I don't know how much of that was Charles being desperate to stay relevant this season. But Hamilton had about as good a race as he could. They put him on a really wacky strategy for part of that, where I think it was the first virtual safety car came out.
What about softs?
And, they saw like an opportunity for the cheap pit stop, so they pitted him and put him on softs. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess it's a cheap pit stop, but you really didn't pit super long ago, and now you're going to have to pit again soon anyway because you put them on soft, so I don't really get what you're doing. Didn't really work out super great for them in the end. Charles Leclerc seemed like he was just falling farther and farther backwards. So, like, considering he started on the front row, the fact that he finished, 45 seconds off the lead all the way back in 8th place, not a great day for Charles. He maybe seems to be having a hard time coming to grips with this generation of car. We saw the last generation. We were wondering for a long time whether Lewis Hamilton was done or not, and it turns out that no, it's probably just didn't like that style of car. Didn't really work with his driving style because now Lewis Hamilton looks great again. So I'm sure it's got nothing to do with Charles Leclerc being done or washed or anything like that. I think he
No,
just is
I it
not
looked
jiving with this type of
yeah,
driving style of car.
it looked like here in the heat that car didn't take care of the tires as well as some of their rivals, and Leclerc suffered. And the other guy who suffered kind of along with him was Lando Norris, who had a very meh race, let me tell you. He gets pipped by his teammate early, and that was kind of all she wrote. The McLaren race was very odd. The first stint and a half was kind of bad. I mean, it just was not. They were not making any end roads. They were holding okay, but they weren't able to get anywhere. They finally figured something out about halfway through, and all of a sudden you start seeing green and better lap times from both Norris and Piastri. But by then it was too late. They really couldn't take advantage of it. Piastri, to his credit, gets around Hamilton and gets around both Ferraris. Norris did get around Leclerc late, but was unable to catch and pass Hadjar at the end. One bad go at that turn three. Turn three and Lando Norris have a market history. He either does one of two things. He either nails that corner and it's great, and he's going to set like a green or purple middle sector, or he completely misses it. And it was a mixture. Like there'd be some of those ones where he would nail the bump and it would be a great lap time and he'd get like 3/10 on whoever he was chasing. And then he'd give it back and he'd go way wide and go off the circuit and have to come back. Very tough to drive. Not a good day for them. They didn't end up bringing the Macarena, or they brought the Macarena wing, but they didn't put it on the car and they didn't even trial it. So it's basically the same spec of car that you saw in Spain, which was okay, but not great. So Piastri, I thought, had a much better day, looked a little bit more competitive. I think the team can be happy that he's, out of his doldrums a little bit. Hopefully that's a harbinger of things to come, where he actually said in his post-race interview he felt like he was back for the first time in a
Good.
long time, so that was good. But you're still 21 seconds off the lead. So I'm kind of in the camp of, all right, got to go back to the upgrade shop and pull the next bit of speed, because the drivers are okay. I mean, you look at the driver standings, they are literally 1 point apart from each other. So they are driving the car to the limits of the car. It's just the car just can't give it to them right now. So yeah, kind of tough. Tough also day, I think Rachel Fleming will mention this probably later, for the Audis, just outside the points. Very interesting day on the team radio for the two Racing Bulls. The law firm of Lidblad and Lawson were going at it, and Liam Lawson was not having some of what his teammate was doing. There were some team orders that were ignored. There were some team orders that were later followed. So they had a very spicy day, but they do come home in the points, albeit a lap down. Yeah, Cody, any other notable things you wanted to talk about in the midfield?
No, I really think we covered it pretty thoroughly. It's kind of weird to be talking about the Ferraris in the midfield after Lewis's win last time out. But I think that really just goes to show that this season is going to be really volatile, because we're at the beginning of the regs. There's a lot of upgrades coming. Some stuff's working, some stuff is not. They still got to figure it out. And everything is track dependent, So we keep hearing about how, different types of circuits are energy starved versus energy rich as far as the hybrid system goes. So, even based on just the power unit, some power units are going to do better at certain tracks than others. So this one looked like it was a great track for Red Bull, and they did bring a lot of upgrades. Ferrari brought, I guess, they actually brought their engine upgrades for this race? Yes,
Yes, they did.
Engine upgrade. Okay, so yeah,
it was in the notice. Like they didn't put it in until Saturday, but the engine spec that they ran Saturday and therefore Sunday did have the update to it.
Maybe they're just trying to still figure some stuff out. Maybe it's got to do. It could even have to do with the fact that they're racing on a mountain, pretty much. Like, it could be altitude, it could be so many things. So,
or it could have something to do with the fact that the engines aren't as, like, the update isn't as powerful as everybody was leading everybody to believe. That, like,
yes.
yeah, it did its thing, and that's what it did. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot. We're now going to quickly transition. Everybody packs up and goes to the British Grand Prix, which is going to be a very different circuit with very potentially different weather, with all sorts of different variables. So yeah, who is the non-Mercedes contender? We've seen there have been races where McLaren were the non-Mercedes contender, where there was Ferrari were the non-Mercedes contender. Here it was clearly Red Bull was the non-Mercedes contender. At least they are giving them a fight. It's not a walk in the park for either of these guys. And it's significant for the championship that Russell kind of gets back into it a bit. That helps him out. He's only, I think, 40 some odd points down now, almost to the where I would say it's game back on, but he's still got to get some luck back on his side. But Kimi is definitely gettable if you can get him on a specific day. But he's still, I thought even after the disappointment qualifying, to see his pace, even after the weird start that he had where he was all over the place, and that's the inexperience of the kid, to pull it back together and still have only finished 2 seconds off the win was damn impressive. So
Mhm.
yeah, this championship, if it can get closer, it's going to be one heck of a fight because these guys both want it really bad. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We will re-rack. We'll come on back. We'll tell you what this did to those point standings, who got closer and who got further away. We'll then open it up to your comments on this race in the fan email segment. We will hand out some awards. We will talk about predictions, which we haven't done in a long time. So we will pick up where that game ended off, even though we're round 8 or 9 of the championship. I think this is round 5 or 4 for us in the predictions. So yeah,
Mhm.
we missed a few. But anyway, we'll pick up where all that is. Come on back. We'll have some fun. You won't want to miss it.
You are listening to the Outlap F1 podcast, and we'll be right back after this quick pit stop. Grab your flu powder, broomstick, or apparate to your favorite audio streaming service to join the discussion on Hogwarts, a podcast, where Dan and his friends have in-depth chapter-by-chapter breakdowns of each Harry Potter novel. Join the group as they dive into the magical world and discuss plot points, analyze character development, and occasionally go off the rails. Whether you're a muggle who's new to the series or a pure-blood wizard who won't need a remember-all, Hogwarts, a podcast, brings everyone to the Great Hall for a magical discussion. Hogwarts, a podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, welcome back on in. This is season 8, episode lucky number 13. So we're just going to tell you it's lucky 13, dang it, because we got to do this one at some point. It's our 2026 Austrian GP review show. You've got the Outlap F1 podcast, and you've got Andy along with Cody tonight. And we just wrapped up talking about the Austrian GP. Congrats to George Russell on the win. So what did this do to your driver and constructor standings? Cody, if you want to take the drivers, I will take the teams.
All right. In first place, following the Austrian Grand Prix, we've still got Kimi Antonelli leading the driver standings for Mercedes at 171 points. However, George Russell does gain 10 points on him following his win here. So he's second for Mercedes at 131 points, so just 40 behind Kimi at this time. Lewis Hamilton still in third place for Ferrari at 125 points. A little bit of a gap after that, down to Oscar Piastri in fourth place for McLaren at 80 points. Fifth place, Lando Norris, just 1 point behind Oscar at 79 points. Honestly, considering between the two of them, they've had like 3 did not starts and a couple of retirements. I think that's actually pretty commendable. Sixth place, Charles Leclerc and the other Ferrari at 79 points, so tied with Lando, but falls behind on countback. Seventh place, Max Verstappen, finally making some better points gains here with the second place. Seventh for Red Bull, 73 points. Then a bit of a gap back to his teammate, but Isaac Hedger holding his own. Eighth place in the other Red Bull, 42 points. 1 point behind him in ninth place, Pierre Gasly for Alpine, 41 points. And then rounding out the top 10 is Liam Lawson for Racing Bulls, sitting on 30 points.
All right, your constructor standings after this round are as follows. P1, no surprise here. That is Mercedes. They are up to 302 points on the season. P2, Ferrari check in. They move up to 204 points. Good bit gap in front of P3 McLaren, who are up to 159 points on the season. P4 is Red Bull. They check in with 115 points. P5 is Alpine, up to 57, although no points on offer this weekend for them. P6, Racing Bulls, double points finish for them, sees them up to 44 points. P7 was Haas. Unfortunately, not able to replicate some of their Austrian magic from prior years. They remain on 21 points, along with Williams, who check in on P8. They remain on 11. P9 is Audi. They keep the 2 points that they have. P10, Aston Martin, on the back of the Fernando Alonso point effort in Monaco, get the single point there. And P11, Cadillac, only 6 laps between 2 drivers. That means no points for them, so they remain P11 on 0 points. All right, you have heard our takes on the Austrian GP weekend, the first leg of a back-to-back doubleheader between Austria and Great Britain. It is now time for your takes on the weekend. So here we are with the fan email segment. Cody, we've got our regulars here. It's your time to shine, sir. What does Rachel Fleming? We'll start with Rachel Fleming. What does she have to say?
All right. Our first one comes in from Rachel. Thank you, Rachel. And she says, welcome back, Cody. Why, thank you very much. I am happy to be back. She goes on to say, I liked that race. I liked it very much indeed. George wins. I was a little nervous about Max. I can't deny it, but my man did it. He needed that win. I had the driver tracker on my phone the last 10 laps to see the traffic George had to get through. I'll talk about Alonso in a minute, but Stroll was even worse in both quali and the race. 1 minute 10 in quali. That is appalling. Oh, and dear Ferrari. All that good work in Spain, and yet they got it wrong here. Audi watch, so close to the points. Port was 11th, but no. Hulk is still on 0 points. Perez watch, well, that was quick for him. Car got too hot and had to retire. But he apparently jumped the start, which I missed that too. But probably not going to matter too much for him, considering he couldn't get farther than 4 laps anyway. But he is starting to thrash Bottas now.
I have a note about that when we get through that, because it's interesting what the FIA did with that.
All right. Last bit here, Alonso watch. The milk cart was exceptionally slow here, apart from the pit lane. Ouch. The Aston is still fast there,
right,
but too fast. I think Fernando was lapped by the whole field. 3 times over. Not by the whole field, almost the whole field. But there was still faster than Stroll, even though Stroll, even before Stroll retired. Yes, there's a lot here. 110 puts you, 3 or 4 seconds slower than the pole time. So he had 110. So he was
almost 4 if you counted. It's almost a 105.
Yeah. He's in Q1. He was 3 seconds slower than the best time, more than 3 seconds slower. And we're talking about a lap that the pole time was 1 minute 6. So 3 seconds is a lot. We already did a little bit of Aston Martin bashing, but that does put in perspective just how bad it is. You said you had something for the Perez jump start?
Oh, so the Perez jump start is something that didn't even get really talked about until after the race, way after the race. So we've talked about kind of the end of race procedure that nobody ever sees. If you go and you do the refreshing of the website, the FIA website, there's all the documents, that they rack up. And as they're going through all their post-race checks, and there's a whole bunch of them that are kind of the automatic. There's the deleted lap times, there's the scrutineering report, and then there's the 2 championship points ones. Championship points is supposed to be it, okay, for the documents. They publish the championship points documents and then go, oh, wait, we forgot to tell you Sergio Perez jumped the start. There's an additional document after the points about Sergio Perez, and you read the explanation. It's hilarious. They basically said, well, no further action. 1, he didn't complete enough laps for it to matter, and 2, he would have got a 5-second penalty, which doesn't carry over, so we're just going to be merciful and not give it to him. So there's no penalty points or anything like that. So, it was literally the postscript of postscripts that I've ever seen on the FIA site. Sergio Perez, man, breaking new barriers all the time.
It is pretty funny to see that he is really kind of. I mean, there wasn't anything to show for it in this race because they both retired so quickly. But Perez is definitely outdoing Bottas pretty significantly so far this season, and it definitely brings me back to the Perez apology train. I am sorry.
Yes. By the way, Sergio, we're sorry.
Yes, but also I think it really does kind of mean that Bottas is he's probably done. I mean,
he's a seat holder and he knows it. He's a seat holder for if and when Colton Herta gets his super license points. That's kind of the known. And you're certainly not gonna take Perez out of that car yet. You need to have an experienced hand who knows what he's talking about and has enough oomph behind what he says for it to matter. If you're going with a Colton Herta eventually being in that car, whether it's 27 or 28 or whatever the plan is. So I mean, that's probably going to be your experience versus rookie in Colton Herta lineup when you get there.
Yeah, it's just kind of sorry. It's kind of sad to see that Bottas doesn't really seem to have like any hunger for this anymore. You just kind of feel like he just wants to go shoot his nudie calendars and ride off into the sunset. But
his goal was to just finish the race, and I think he was kind of adamant about that. And then 2 laps in, and when we said brake fire, we were not kidding. They were there was very orange on the onboards. This was not. They did not get cheaped off with a brake failure or something like that. Those were legit.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, Rachel, for your email. Our next one comes in from Dave Doherty, and he says, "Hi, team. The hills are alive with the sounds of F1. I'm glad we're not the only ones who made that joke. In fact, I'm pretty sure we've made that joke last year, maybe the year before that.
Probably every year.
That was a blockbuster weekend. Quali was a traumatizing experience. What were your thoughts on Russell's pull under the yellow flags and Kimi's under yellow in the race with pitting? This race felt like a cat and mouse chase. I'm also glad I'm not the only one who made that comment. With Ferrari and Mercedes, you got to love for Verstappen versus Hamilton in that race. And thank you for Mercedes for giving George the win. Strategy was brilliant. I mean, I don't think Mercedes' strategy, I don't think they did anything wrong, like in that race for sure. They pretty much were just trying to, at least from George's perspective, they were just trying to cover off Max, and they did well enough with Kimi to get him all the way back up to P3, despite him being a little crazy there at the beginning. So yeah, overall, I'd say their strategy was perfectly adequate, which is probably better than you could say about say like Ferrari in that race, and definitely Red Bull in that race. Maybe could have been a little better, but yeah, we already kind of talked about our thoughts on Russell's whole position under the yellow flags, which is to say that if you go by the rules, he followed them and he still got pole. So good on you, George. Maybe we need to take a closer look at the rules on this one and exactly, maybe certain situations should just kind of be like an immediate double yellow or something like that. Like, I don't know, a driver going off and slamming into the wall at the fastest part of the circuit might be a good time to just automatically throw a double yellow. But I digress. Yeah, and the Kimi's pitting under yellow, I think that was pretty much, like you said, he was kind of already going into the pits when that happened. So could have had luck on his side had that yellow flag come out just a little bit sooner. But
yeah. And Dave, to your comment about the qualifying, George didn't do anything wrong, so he gets to keep the pole for that reason. I just thought that the call was a bad call. Why there would be any sort of a delay, and it would have been interesting to see. And I didn't go back and look. Like, did they even deploy the medical car? Because if it's bad enough to have the medical car, what the hell is a single yellow even doing that in anybody's mind at any point? But that enough said there. As for the Mercedes strategy, I think the thing that you can probably take solace in is in here, unlike what they did in Spain, they didn't blink. They ran the race that they were going to run. They were regardless of what Ferrari did, and no matter what Ferrari did, it wasn't enough to pressure them to get out of it. So I think that is, if you're a Mercedes fan, what you kind of want to take away from there. Obviously, the Verstappen v Hamilton was chef's kiss all the way around. Loved every minute of it. Love the fact that I really didn't have a dog in the fight, so I could just kind of sit back and enjoy and go, okay, for once, I'm just going to enjoy the wheel to wheel here, and whoever comes out comes out. Good for George to get back in the title race, because I think he needs to do that.
Thank you. Thank you again, Dave, for your email. Our last one comes in from the Formula. Thank you, Mr. Formula. And he says, all right, lengthy bullet point format, ready, go. Cody, I presume you're back now. Welcome back. Thank you. The show really suffered without you. Just kidding, Andy. No, I'm sure
No,
Andy
it
did. Andy did a fantastic job running a one-man show, but I am very happy to be back. Next up, we got TV direction. We've been here before. It just ticks me off. Who is making these camera cut decisions? Yeah, we haven't really talked about that yet, but we can in a second. Next bullet point. I actually really miss Horner. We're going to have to agree to disagree on that. We're lacking the inter-team verbal judo he brought. This is most obvious every time Meki is interviewed. He's a nice guy, but my God, is no passion in that guy's demeanor. Did you notice the Merc and Red Bull rear wings behaving oddly in the opening couple laps? On turn entry, they were doing quick pulsing to the open position and closing again within a fraction of a second. I did not see this at all. It's very interesting. I was worried it was going to cause some instability under braking, to be honest. I've not seen that behavior at any other race, unless I just missed it and what was going on there. And then the last bullet point, finally, well done to George on getting that pole. He deserved that. He deserves it just as much as the Astros deserve their 2017 World Series. Oof. All right. Well, okay, George didn't cheat. We can say that definitively that he did not cheat.
It's not like Toto's sitting in the back with a yellow, garbage can there, man. Oh, jeez.
No,
I know he's not a George fan, but that's harsh, man. That is harsh.
Very harsh. I would say there is no asterisk next to George's poll unless unlike the 2017 Astros. But yes, no, I really didn't notice the rear wings thing. I gotta wonder if, because you're saying, let's see, it was Mercedes and Red Bull. So Mercedes isn't doing anything with the flippy wing right now. I don't know. Maybe I don't think I've noticed them doing that before. So if they're doing that during this race, I would think it's got to be some kind of malfunction that hopefully they got squared away pretty quickly or something. But that's a little bit of a weird one.
There was a comparison in one of the practices between what Red Bull's rear wing was doing versus what Ferrari's rear flippy wing was doing, and kind of the comparison and the contrast, where they were closing much more than where they were opening. I mean, what it is it's the same kind of system like a DRS, where it's a line that it won't let you open it until you're in and you see the signs if you're watching around the track, you see them. There's, as opposed to what used to be the DRS signs, now they say OT, which is for overtake mode, which is that one line that's the closest thing to DRS that you kind of still have. And then you have the 3 or 4 SM signs that go around that tell the drivers it's okay to do straight mode. What I don't know is if it's still kind of based in the driver's helmet, like with a beeping system. So I'm wondering if you're hitting the beep or you're hearing a beep and that's triggering you to hit a button on the wheel that maybe causes something to maybe not work as on the actuator as much as they would have thought. But I didn't see it enough to notice it. So, I mean, that's a great catch. It wasn't enough for me to notice it, especially with the Mercedes one, because they have a very traditional, it's an old school DRS open flap right now. They don't have a Macarena wing or a flippy wing. I did notice that on closure, the Ferrari wing was closing later to where you're almost seeing at some point Lewis start the turn into turn 10 was where they highlighted it. And I said, oh, that could be a problem because your downforce level is changing as you're starting to turn the car. That's
Mhm.
really tough to kind of deal with. And there were some times where I think Lewis had an off and Leclerc had an off during the race where that may have been something to play there, but I didn't see what he's specifically talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
it
a-
could be a lot of things.
yeah. The TV direction, the shot with the back of the guy's head is probably, you're getting way too artsy with your camera work here, guys. Just do the race.
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of split opinions about the drone shots. This was really the first time where we saw, heavy drone shots in the race. I didn't mind the perspective, but then again, I'm looking at 3 different screen. My thing is if you are mad about the race direction, you have ways to kind of make your own race direction so that you can see what you want to see. Which, find a different screen, have an onboard on there of your favorite driver, your favorite 2 drivers, which you can do on F1 TV, and you'll get so much more, in my opinion, of what's actually going on during the race for your team's perspective or for your favorite driver's perspective than you'll do with the race direction, because they're all over the place. And there was at one point, I think they were talking about a P13 battle in the middle of things, and I'm like, this doesn't make. Meanwhile, while Max is hunting down George, and there's Pierre Gasly, and it says P13 on the screen, I'm like, what are you doing? But yeah, race direction. Somebody come help them.
Yeah, the race direction is definitely weird. I don't care about the artsy shots. I definitely have made it clear many times before. I don't care about shots of drivers' girlfriends or celebrities who are at the race. I don't care. I tuned in to watch Formula One, so please show me that. Or, if you're showing the guys in the garage, like, they're participating, like, cool, that's fine. I don't care about, the people who are at the race. I want to be at the race. I don't want to see other people enjoying the race that I'm not at. But yeah, definitely some weird things with the coverage, not looking at the right things at the right times. Definitely feel like kind of something I noticed. I think it was during the race rather than qualifying, where it seemed like they were kind of trying to like shoehorn in replays, especially of like the start and stuff like that.
Oh, well, yeah.
While there was still stuff going on, and I was like, okay, like, I understand that, you really kind of try to show the replay of at least the start of the race, like, every time, because it tends to be the most chaotic part of the race, and you don't necessarily see everything that's going on. But like, Jesus, if there's still better shit going on right now, show me that.
Right.
Like, put the replay in the tiny box or something, or just don't show it at all. If it gets to be like 5 or 6 laps past the beginning and it doesn't really make sense to show it anymore, then just don't. Like, I can look it up later. It just,
that has been
show me the exciting stuff that's going on now, please, if that's happening.
No, completely agree. And that has been a thing with F1 broadcasts in the world feed for decades. They have it pre-programmed into their thing, into their rundown, that they want to show the replay of the start within the first 5 laps. I don't know why they box themselves into that, but if you'll notice, they'll always try to get it done between the first 5 laps. And you're right. There was still plenty of stuff happening on lap 5. And I think because they kind of have gotten to by usually lap 5, that's when it's started to spread out. Normally that may be okay. These are different cars. These cars don't subscribe to that rule or that logic anymore. And therefore, I think your broadcast has to change to adopt what that is. If you want to show the replay of the start during the virtual safety car where everybody's trundling around at 40% of their normal speed, let's do that. You can still show all those angles and all that good stuff later on in the broadcast, but you're right. I'm like, why are you showing the start? There's still crap going on. But it was not a good day for the TV director. I didn't think so. Especially the shot of the guy, the dude's back of the head. I don't know what artistic thing you're going for, but there's better photographers than what you have hired. Let them get the artsy shot and put it in a book and sell it.
Yes. As far as the the drone shots go, I actually thought they were kind of cool. The only thing I didn't like is, the fact of the matter is you got a drone flying around the track, you're going to have that at a lower resolution than your big old fancy camera. So that was a little jarring. I kind of was wondering, I'm like, did the signal just get really shit? Like all of a sudden, like did my Wi-Fi slow down or something? But no, it's just the drone shot. But the shot itself was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But let's see here. What else we got here? The missing Horner. Yeah, I disagree. I think the guy's kind of a douchebag, and I guess you could say, yeah, he brought a lot of drama to the paddock, but like, I don't want that. Like, made it feel so overdone and artificial, and like, I would honestly would rather have guys like Mekias, who I think you're maybe mistaking his being reserved as a lack of passion. I think he's probably very passionate. I think that's why he's in his role as a team principal. But he's just a more reserved person. And I think that's probably a good thing.
I have liked Mekias even when his days were like the second engineer, not even the chief engineer at Ferrari. I remember he got conscripted to do a team principal's press conference. It was one of those when like the first two guys they got sick. It was during the COVID era. They may have not been able to be at the circuit. And this guy who never goes in front of the camera gave one of the best 30-minute like he was talking, and they were talking about like engines and big picture items. And I just walked away from that conference going, this guy makes me kind of want to like Ferrari a little bit here. Like, I really like this guy. And I like the fact that he's definitely 180 degrees away from Christian Horner. And that's what Red Bull wants right now. Red Bull, the organization, don't want to be in the headline for any other thing than we signed Max Verstappen to a long-term contract and he's staying put. That's the only headline that Red Bull want to have out there right now. They don't want inter-team drama. They don't want to talk about people leaving the team. They don't want to talk about any of the residuals from the Horner drama or any of that stuff. I get it from an entertainment perspective. Yeah, he was a peacock. He would come in and strut his shit around, and he was also Eddie Haskell, and he would start shit with other people too. And there's a certain entertainment value to that, but I don't think that's what you need. I don't think that's what F1 in general needs to be entertaining. If the driver battle or the championship battle heats up, there's going to be more than enough drama there. There's still going to be plenty of good cut shots for Drive to Survive. And he may, my guess is he's still going to find a way to get into Drive to Survive and be a pundit on there. So he may not be gone. And oh, by the way, the BYD entry is gaining more and more momentum every time I read about that story, and he is heavily linked to it. So he may not be gone for very much longer. Watch this space.
Well, I actually would be here for that. I don't care. Like I said, I don't care about Horner coming back, but I would really be interested in seeing BYD make their way into Formula One. I think that would be pretty fun to see, honestly.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, especially if he can. Now, what you're going to find out is Christian Horner was he the brainchild of the Red Bull brain trust? Because if he can build it from jump, then you're really going to see something. But it's a massive undertaking, but his name keeps getting linked to that everywhere I read. All right. So like I said, watch this space. And thank you, guys, all of you, and Lady and Rachel, for all of your comments. We love reacting to them. Keep them coming. You guys are the reason why we're talking. So we're not exactly talking to ourselves. And at least this time, I'm not talking to myself for an hour. So it's even better. All right. So we'll move into our awards. We will start with the rubbish. I guess I get to go first on this one because you kind of dittoed on me. So,
all right, I'm ready for the rant.
Yeah, here it comes. A small story. And the fact that it's a small story is what annoys me about this. Why this isn't bigger I do understand because the guy understands media very, very well. And my rant starts with, this is how democracy dies, with thunderous applause. There's a little tiny story that only motorsport nerds like me and Cody and a couple other people might read. Mohammed bin Sulayem has completed his coup of the FIA. And I hope y'all were watching because he did it in everybody's plain frickin' view. He abolished term limits set by John Tott. And I don't agree with a lot of what John Tott ever did for the FIA, but he was right to establish a 4-year term limit that would have capped it at 12 years. That's now gone. And he got it with 90% approval rate from the very, very specific people who he's been putting into places at all of these racing clubs in his tenure. He's been doing this since he got elected, since he was the surprise winner. He's been aiming at this, and now he got it. And I hope y'all were watching, because it's fine when he's not doing anything and everybody agrees with his engine take. But if he does something that you don't like, you're going to be stuck with it. I just hope y'all were watching. Kind of bothers me on this one. This one just irks at me. And there were people that tried to stand up to him that he got silenced, got shoved out the door, and anybody who had an opposing viewpoint to his got shown the door and got kicked out. And quickly, too. Quickly and quietly. It just sucks. I'm a big motorsport fan. I hate when I see shit like this. It drives me nuts. It's like I'm watching the World Cup. I'm watching FIFA versus the FIA, and I'm trying to figure out who's more corrupt. I'm still thinking it's FIFA, but this is a long way towards that.
I mean, yeah, the FIA is certainly corrupt, but FIFA is famous for corruption.
Yes, I know. They kind of advertise it at this point.
Yes, I ditto with you on that. It's really kind of bullshit. We've pretty much got an FIA dictatorship going on here now, and it's pretty gross. If I'm going to give a rubbish award to something that happened in the race weekend, it's definitely going to go to that the single waved yellow when Max crashed out should have been a double waved yellow. Qualifying should have been done at that point. It was not. Yep. And I thought that was kind of bullshit. But beyond that, as we've said a couple times, everything else was followed to the letter of the law. So, we're just going to move on from it and try to learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it bothers me with the qualifying thing. Is like, we all saw what we knew we saw. Mm-hmm. Like, I saw it and went, oh, well, that's qualifying done. As soon as I saw the shot of where his car was and the state of his car with a driver in it, that to me is qualifying done. I don't want to go down the list of what coulda, shoulda, or what coulda happened, because it gets scarier the longer you go down it. So I guess I share with you on that, and we'll leave that in the rubbish bin for this weekend. All right, moving on to analysis paralysis. I guess I get to go first again because you're in agreement with me here. Red Bull. I don't know if you thought the clean air was going to be the capper on the Sunday, but you will go into a pit stop sequence 2 seconds down after Max had fought and clawed his way up there to be on par with George on pace. And you go from 2 seconds down to 10 seconds down after that sequence. That tells me that was the wrong play. You kind of left your boy out a bit too long. The overcut didn't work. The undercut definitely did. And it's just the Max ran out of laps because of that.
Yeah, I really hate to put this as the analysis paralysis because it stings, but it is the truth. They left out Max, I think, was it 6 laps longer than George? And I think after maybe like 2 laps, you had probably seen the writing on the wall and been like, let's, we were going to go for something. Let's cut our losses here. And they just kind of kept trying to stick to it. And it wasn't, I think they should have and probably could have called the audible on whatever strategy they were going for much more quickly. And that might have really made the difference because, you know, I don't know, maybe he wouldn't have had as much of a tire delta, so he might not have been performing as well relative to George, but they were pretty much on more or less a similar sequence on the last round of pit stops, I thought, and Max was still catching up plenty good there. So yeah, I think maybe things could have been a little different. At the very least, maybe Kimi wouldn't have been breathing down Max's neck on the last 2 laps, but we'll never know.
Yeah. Sadly, we'll never know. I almost wanted to text you. Wasn't sure if you were watching until I saw all your texts, and I'm like, that felt a little McLaren-esque, where it was like, we're gonna do our thing, and we're just gonna ride this until it goes, and screw you if it gets wrong.
I don't get super animated when I'm watching anything really TV. Like I kind of tend to keep it inside, but there definitely like 5 laps into that, I was kind of like sitting there going like, "What are you doing?"
Anytime. That's usually when I'll yell at the TV and go, anytime now.
So hopefully they do better.
It's fun to watch TV in this apartment sometimes. The security camera that tries to keep me safe sometimes I think has some really fun stuff on it. But anyway, we'll move on to Dark Horse of the Day. I guess this is just the Racing Bull Award now. This is the 3rd time in a row I'm giving this to Lindblad and Lawson because they were literally the best of the top 4 teams all finished, and they all kind of finished in a relative order. So you have to give it to somebody who wasn't in there, and the only 2 other guys who got points were Lindblad and Lawson. So therefore they get Dark Horse. I don't really know what else to say. Done. Cody, what you got?
That's a fair point on that one. To me, it was that after what happened in Spain, I really didn't peg Red Bull for being in the hunt for the win, even with all the upgrades that they brought. So the fact that Max finished just 1.6 seconds away from the race to win, it's dark horse territory for me.
All right, fair enough. All right, so we'll move on to the driver of the day. Coming from P5, finishing P2, making the Mercedes work for it all the way. Max Verstappen had himself one hell of a day from the ding-dong with Lewis that didn't end up in tears for either of them, and thank God for that, for both fan bases there. Otherwise, the social media would have melted. I can't even begin. So thank you for both of you, Max and Lewis, for not wrecking each other there. I did not want to deal with the repercussions of that. But that having been said, Max Verstappen drove a hell of a race, almost won it, almost got George at the end. So I'm going to give him driver of the day. Cody, what you got?
I am also going to give Max Verstappen driver of the day. I'm very happy to be in a position to be able to do so. I really hope that maybe this race weekend helped Max Verstappen maybe rediscover his passion for Formula One a little bit, because that passion seems to have been a little shaky lately, and I really don't want him to retire from F1 just yet. Promise, dude, the regs are going to get a little better next year and a little better the year after that, and then who the hell knows, but your contract's until 2028, so at least see this out. And hopefully I can watch you get many more drivers of the day.
It seems to me that him being in favor of the energy split stuff, now that that's been announced, he reacted pretty favorably to that. I don't think he's leaving F1 at this point. I think his management are playing games to try to get Red Bull to bring forward whatever developments they can to show him that he's got a good car. I honestly think he's going to probably finish his career with Red Bull. It would be a huge thing to pack up and go to whatever other team is available, even though there doesn't look to be anybody available. And I know the recent stuff all talked about McLaren, and I guess I'm wearing the McLaren hat, so I better address it here. No, I don't see him doing that. I the only part that makes me even believe that for a minute is, there's a lot of ex-Red Bull staff that might be getting some of the band back together, but the way McLaren and Red Bull do things is completely different from one another. I don't think Max will like it.
How How many other teams has Max been linked to now? Aston
We've
Martin,
gone
Mercedes,
from Mercedes, and now Kimi Antonelli shut that door. Now it was Aston Martin for a while. There's no way he's going to Aston Martin right now.
No.
Not anyway. And so the only one that you can kind of throw sticks at is McLaren, because you've got Oscar Piastri with a contract out at the end of next year. So, okay, but if Oscar Piastri seems, contrary to popular belief, if for everything that I watch, and I watch a lot of body language, and I know Oscar's very much a poker player and doesn't give a lot away, he's very happy at that team. I know that screws with a lot of people's narratives, but come on, man. I don't think Zach wants... I mean, yeah, and Zach entertains the idea because he's a 4-time world champion, and if he wants to knock at your door, you open the door and say, come on in, let's talk. But beyond that, I don't see it going anywhere. I think Max finishes his career at Red Bull, and especially if he can get to a engine reg that's past this one, and that's sitting out there for him.
And just to show you how much we actually know about all this stuff, I bet you this time next year we'll hear about Lewis retiring and Max going to Ferrari.
Right. Like, I've seen Max in all the deep fakes of Max in all the different driver uniforms. It's kind of a funny thing at this point. Like, there's 4 of them. But anyway, that's my take on... If you were waiting for me to give my take on how about the Max to McLaren rumors, that's my thought on it. I don't think it's happening. But I have been proven wrong many times before, and I will gladly eat crow if we get a summer break text like that. First off, I'm waking you up. I don't care when I get it. And 2, we're doing like an emergency pod if Max goes somewhere that's not Red Bull.
You wake me up with something like that, I'm waking my wife up.
All right. Well, before we hop on out of here, now that we've gone completely off the rails, we'll talk a little bit about predictions. And Cody, you came back to the prediction game, and you had a heck of a weekend, sir. You finished the weekend with 5 points. You got P3 on the podium for Kimi Antonelli. You got the fastest lap time. You got the fastest lap driver. You got P9 on the bonus pick. You're right. You picked the right racing bull. And you got the prop bet. That defeats my 2 points. I just got it because my pull time was slightly slower than yours. Our pull times were abysmal. We're 2 seconds off, but I got it because I was slightly slower. And I got the prop bet because I said both Red Bulls will score points. So you are... this is your first official win on the board. I'm still up 2-1-1 on the season in the predictions game. All right. Well, that will do it for the Austrian GP, round 1 of 2 of the doubleheader. We move from Austria to Great Britain, F1's spiritual home in a lot of ways for a lot of teams. The British Grand Prix beckons, Silverstone beckons. It's a sprint weekend. It's Independence Day weekend in the U.S., so we can all kind of watch it. So it's going to be all kind of crazy. The only thing I will say, we will probably be back with a preview later on this week. The only session that I'm going to be kind of a little nervous about is actually watching the sprint quali live. I might not be able to do that because I'm going to have some obligations. My niece is celebrating her first birthday ever. You only turn one once ever. So I have some early commitments to be at my sister's house helping move stuff around, or I'm going to be the ice guy. I guarantee it. I'm going to be told to go get ice. But it may be during sprint quali. I'm not so sure if I'm going to watch it live, but I will watch it. I will have my iPad and stuff with me. I will definitely get a chance to watch it. Cody, any final thoughts before we hop on out?
No, just that this was a good race. And, I got to say, again, that despite the fact that I still think these regs are shit, we are still getting entertaining races, which is, I guess, the best I could hope for. I really hope that carries over into next race because I really like Silverstone. The energy from the fans there is top notch, and it's a classic circuit. All the corners are named. You kind of know them all. Like it's really cool to watch a race there. Just really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so we will be all primed and ready for you next weekend. So for Cody, it's been Andy. As always, folks, stay safe out there. It's a crazy world. But as always, may all your laps be fast.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Outlap F1 podcast. If you like what you heard, click that subscribe button and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect with us outside of the show, check out our website at www.outlapf1.com. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at outlapf1podcast, or email us at chatnow@outlapf1.com. As always, thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you on the next one.